I was able to dig a little deeper on Rogelio Nores with the help of a source by the name of Julia. Shout out to Julia if you're watching this. Okay. And what is so interesting is that what is being reported in Argentina is a little bit different what's being reported here in the US. So we're going to get into Rogelio Nores. I also want to go back to Brian Paez, the other individual charged on this case that we have yet to see a picture of. But we're going to speculate as to why that is. Well, I was looking into Rogelio Nores. It is truly a rags to riches type of situation with Rogelio Nores. And let me explain to you what I mean, okay? If you look at Rogelio Nores' background, there isn't anything about his education or schooling or how he got to be like this huge leader of the electric power companies in Argentina. Where did he come from exactly? There isn't a lot about that. There's only a lot about his business dealings, right? Well, Rogelio Nores started out as a driver for Nicolas Caputo. Nicolas Caputo is the co-founder of Migor. He founded this company with Mauricio Macri, the ex-former president of Argentina. Migor is a Argentinian company that produces electronic, mobile phones, automobile parts, and exports and distributes and commercializes agricultural productions. So Nicolas Caputo is like head of this company and he's sharing it with Mauricio Macri, and Rogelio Nores becomes the driver of Nicolas Caputo. And this is how the connection becomes. Like he went from being his driver to suddenly being shareholder of this company and other companies and whatnot. How does that happen? I'm not really sure. You would think that somebody with such a profile would have climbed up naturally. You know, he went to school, he interned, something like that, but that didn't even happen here. So much gray in this situation. So Mauricio Macri has a very sketchy past. There have been mafia ties. He is accused of spying on individuals. There's something. There's been a lot of darkness that follows Mauricio Macri, and different people from Argentina will tell you different things, okay? But the question is how does this simple driver like Rogelio Nores end up somehow being a main shareholder of a Canadian offshore company called Stoneway Capital Corp in 2016? Now, allegedly, it said that Rogelio Nores created two shell companies, and thanks to Mauricio Macri's family and mafia connections, he was awarded many energy tenders. And to finance the project, he borrowed money and then ended up embezzling. With the embezzlement, they reconstructed the debt, but despite the assets being in Argentina, the contracts were governed by the U.S. bankruptcy code. This whole plot ended up leaving the country's energy situation in Argentina on the economic shoulders of the people of Argentina. And the abuse of energy prices in Argentina are basically because of these scams between Mauricio Macri's government and Rogelio Nores' administration and dealing. There's a lot of people that are suffering in Argentina because of this whole situation. It is said that Rogelio Nores has a pretty bad reputation in Argentina. He is accused by the courts, of course, which we just said, allegedly bankrupting a major energy company which no longer exists but operated under the name of Araucaria. In addition, he was the owner of Stoneway Capital Funds. A few years ago, he decided to declare bankruptcy. Now, that whole bankruptcy was a whole shit show, and that is where people have felt like they have been taken advantage of to a certain degree. According to Forbes magazine, his former firm Stoneway Capital issued 500 million to build 4 gas-fired power plants in Argentina that supply electricity to 600,000 homes in Buenos Aires. Norris later sold the company for hundreds of millions of dollars to a Canadian company. Araucaria Energy and SIP Energy were awarded 4 multi-million dollar contracts to build the plants. Their controlling company, Stoneway, the tax haven in the name of Norris, placed debt on the New York Stock Exchange for 665 million through a 10% bond maturing in 2027. The main creditors of the bonds are vulture funds such as BlackRock, Gramercy, and Fidelity. The lawyer that provided the legal advice for the issuance of the Stoneway bond was Norberto Quintana, brother of the then Deputy Chief of Staff Mauricio Macri, Mario Quintana. Following all of this, This is when Stoneway filed for bankruptcy for failing to pay the 30 million debt corresponding to the 220 million loan Gramercy Investment Fund had granted it. In 2021, the company and its creditors presented a reconstruction plan. The process was carried out under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code and under the Canadian Business Corporation Act. At that time, Rogelio Nores was accused of hollowing out the company, leaving its creditors, including large international funds such as BlackRock, with huge losses. Where have I heard BlackRock before? I know we've talked about BlackRock, or it's been talked about before with BlackRock. The accusations against him include the creation of complex corporate structures in tax havens, which raise suspicion of money laundering and other financial crimes. In the world of business, he is known for having had problems with creditors and international financing funds. He left a debt of more than 50 million US and had to leave the country in 2021. Now, Rogelio Roger Norris, of course, very shady dealings, right? He has a history of that. And that was amazing that people hadn't caught on to that, at least on this side. But now we understand a little bit more. And again, shout out to Julia, who kind of gave us this articles to look into this. Now I'm going to talk about Liam Payne and Norris and what some of the Argentinian articles say. Rogelio Norris had been friends with Liam Payne for years. So this wasn't like a sudden friendship. No, they had known each other for years. For a while, there was speculation that the two shared a romance because Liam used to make frequent visits to Buenos Aires, right? And Liam was asked at one point if there was something more to this relationship. And Liam took it in good grace and basically confirmed that the only thing that was going on between him and Rogelio Norris was that they were very close in their friendship. He is quoted saying, "There were a lot of things in magazines that said that Roger and I were gay, but unfortunately that's not true. Although if it was, I might go for him. Who knows? But I'm not, so I won't, and he won't either. So I know he won't either." That's cleared up, he said in an interview. You know, it's crazy because like people assumed a lot with that, and he dispelled it in life. So I'm not going to push a narrative about him and Rogelio Roger Norris having something to do with any type of anything romantic, because clearly that was not the case. Let's get into some details about a couple things, okay? Now, this is what is quoted on La Nacion. Liam Payne had arrived to accompany Neil Horan. Both friends said goodbye on October 3rd, one day after the Movie Star Arena show. Liam only entered Casa Sur on the 13th. 10 days later, still unknown whether he stayed and if he stayed in Buenos Aires between the 3rd and the 13th of this month of October, okay? Well, Brian, who is one of the accusers, said that he saw Liam on the 2nd for the first time and then again on the 13th going into the 14th, right? If you look at Kate Cassidy's ticket from the airline, it said that she departed on October the 12th at about 9:30 p.m. So it would make sense that if Brian and Liam connected, Kate Cassidy wasn't around for that. She might have not encountered Brian Paez around that time. In another Argentinian article, that Liam Payne was staying at a very prestigious 5-star hotel that was used to hosting big stars, big rock stars. They kicked him out. They even visited a local psychiatrist who testified in the file. After the 5-star hotel, they both went to Paragones Polo Club with the singer's last girlfriend, Kate Cass, where the singer was wearing a helmet and he was on a horse. They spent a few days. However, Liam quickly became nervous and left the place. And essentially, when they left that hotel, they went over to Casa Sur in Palermo on the Sunday before his death. Thus, they arrived at Casa Sur Hotel in Palermo on the Sunday before his death. So, what exactly was Liam nervous about? That he was having to change hotels? Well, not only that, but it sounded like they had kicked him out from the very first hotel that they were at. And if you look at other articles that have been put out there, it says that Roger Norris was the one in charge of setting Liam up to hotels and his stays in Buenos Aires. Now, let's go back a little bit, okay? Because in various articles it says that that Liam's Payne family directed their anger towards Rogelio Roger Norris, who lied to the family by hiding his drug use. Liam's family was upset with Rogelio Norris's hiding of the drug use. A source in the investigation is quoted saying he is implicated by several other direct testimonies messages. Rogelio Norris is the one that made the reservation to Casa Sur for Liam Payne. He is even one of the last people to be with Liam Payne before he died. The only one from his entourage. Now Rogelio Norris has spoken out and he has said, I never abandoned Liam. I went to his hotel 3 times that day and left 40 minutes before this happened. This is what Rogelio told the Daily Mail on Thursday, and he's been speaking in to La Nacion as well. He is quoted saying there were over 15 people at the hotel lobby chatting it up and joking with him when I left. I could have never imagined something like this would happen. He then says, I've given my statement to the prosecutors on October 17th as a witness, and I haven't spoken to any police officers or prosecutors since. This is what Rogelio Norris said. I wasn't Liam's manager. He was just my very dear friend. I'm really heartbroken with this tragedy. I've been missing my friend every day. Now let's go back to Brian Pius. Okay, Brian Pius gave an exclusive interview and he basically said, listen, I never supplied him any drugs and I never administered any drugs. He's worried about the charges. He said that Liam came to the place of employment where he was at with 3 other people. Basically, Liam, Kate Cassidy, what we believe to be Rogelio Norris, and another person in his entourage who has not been named. He says that he met him at his place of work on October 2nd, and they exchange information from there, like IG information, and then he got to meet him on October 2nd. This is the picture that he said this is the first picture that we took together. Now, let me add to this, okay? How Brian Pius saw Liam on the very first time describes him in the interview as being so drugged that he didn't even eat. That's how we saw Liam Payne, as being very drugged to the point that he wasn't even eating. You do kind of have to wonder at some of these pictures when they're all hanging out. People have asked, well, like, was he sober? Was he drugged? What was it? What was happening exactly? And I don't know if we can assess that based on a couple pictures that we're watching of them hanging out. Because they're just hanging out, right? However, people have said in the comments, well, if he had to do a visa, he had to be clean. He had to be clean. It's possible that he was clean before the visa and then he decided to get into some drugs. We don't know. I mean, that does happen. Liam was very open during his lifetime about his struggles with substance abuse. The problem is that if you know your friend is struggling with substance abuse, who's supplying that to you? Who supplied him all this? Right? The drug dealers? Rogelio Norris? Who? So then he meets him again on October 13th, going into the 14th. Okay. From October the 13th, he again denies ever supplying him with drugs or administering anything to Liam. He says that he did drugs with Liam. He smoked marijuana and Liam was doing cocaine. And there was a state of, and at some point, Liam became very scared and he started shoving paper on this key card holder. And that his face, he was just very scared. He says he remembers seeing the Dove soapbox and the candle and the water, but everything else he did not see from there. Like, he doesn't remember anything else from that. He said that he was intimate with Liam Payne, which a lot of people took issue with that. This is Brian's side of the story. I don't know why everybody's trying to figure out what Liam's sexuality is based on a statement that somebody who's accused of a crime is making. Let's move on from that and just give the details as he's providing them. Again, you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, let's not fight about what his sexuality is, because at the end of the day, Liam is not here to defend himself with that. I'm just translating what he told the people. All right, so those are just some of the details. There's so many questions. And the other question that I have, right? Ezequiel Pereira is another person who has not been interviewed. There's no picture out there about him. And I was talking a little bit to Julia and I said, why do you think that Brian did an interview with this network over here, and he gave this exclusive interview and basically gave his side of the story, because he said he's just as surprised about being accused of anything. He says Brian has said that he's got all the information on his phone, he's got no reason to lie. Well, and not to mention how many hours of footage the prosecutor said in the statement that they had. So keep that in mind. I mean, if somebody's lying, the prosecutor did say that they have over 800 hours of security camera. So they're going to spot in there who was going in and out of those rooms and what was going on. Okay. But Ezequiel Pereira has not spoken out, has not given statements. We have yet to hear about Ezequiel. I don't see a mugshot. I don't see an interview. And when I was talking to Julia, I said, why do you think that is? And Julia said, is it possible that Ezequiel is probably working alongside with Rogelio Roger Norris? Potentially. Very possible that that could be the case, right? We don't know how these individuals move. One of the things that Brian Baez said was that he didn't know the rest of the people that were involved. So the other two accusers. So he doesn't know Rogelio Norris and he doesn't know Ezequiel Pereira, right? When you read the statement from the prosecutor, it said that the second defendant is a hotel employee who must answer for 2 proven supplies of cocaine to Liam Payne during the period he was at the hotel. And the third, also a drug supplier, is accused of 2 other clearly proven supplies during 2 different times on October 14th. Both were charged with the crimes of supplying narcotics to each act. So you have the second defendant is a hotel employee, which Brian Baez says that was his place of work. So we know he's the second defendant. The third defendant, also a drug supplier, is accused of 2 other clearly proven supplies during 2 different times on October 14th. So what it sounds like is, if these statements are true, Brian Baez was supplying him drugs around the 14th, the 13th, the 14th, and then this other drug supplier by the name of Ezequiel Pereira, who we don't have a mugshot of or a picture of, is another drug dealer. Ezequiel Pereira also supplied him drugs on the 14th. So he was getting drugs from these 2 individuals that don't know each other. But Brian has said there is no exchange of money. There was never any deal. He didn't supply anything. He just went there. So y'all believe what you want to believe, but this is what the allegations are. Rogelio Norris's background is shady as AF, y'all. It just is. And then you have all of these individuals, and then there's more individuals. Right now, we only know of 3. They could be charging more. The question, too, is what happened? Another question that I have is what happened to this Rolex watch that went missing, that Liam Payne was photographed all throughout his stay in Argentina with this watch? What happened to that? And how is it that Rogelio Norris can say that he had checked on his friend a couple times, everything was fine, and he left? But at the same time, there are witnesses that were saying that Rogelio Norris looked very irritated, that he came out of the room or the elevator basically apologizing to witnesses because his friends had taken too much drugs. There are other articles and reports, those that are close to this friendship group, its entourage, that basically said that there were concerns about Rogelio isolating Liam. What was that all about? How did they go from being in the first hotel where they got kicked out from to then taking Liam to a psychiatrist? And this is somebody who allegedly testified in the file. After that, after staying at this hotel, this 5-star hotel for rock stars, they both went to Patagones Polo Club. They spent a few days there, and then Liam wanted to leave this polo club place, and that's when they arrived to Casa Sur, right? And it was said that Casa Sur was set up by Rogelio Norris. Is it possible that Rogelio was playing a bigger part in keeping his friends sick, potentially? Is it possible that Kate Cassidy might have seen something and, she just got this was too much. She's like, I'm stepping away. I got to go, feed my dogs, tend to my life over here in the States. Let me go do that. And then just leaves Liam. not really knowing what could have happened. I don't think anybody anticipated that. But yes, it's possible. There's so many moving parts to this. But what we can say is that we're going to keep digging into this. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments. I love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments about where I'm going with this. Thank you so much for those that have been respectful in the comments, that understand that a lot of us on YouTube, we're just reporting on stories and articles that have been put out there, of course. And like always, do your own research, do your own translation if you feel like somebody has failed here, because you know, easier said than done, right? Do that. But y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And we're not done talking about this, because there's more rabbit holes to this. There are a lot of rabbit holes to situations like this. I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out.